read the bio, but this is really vulnerable. You surprised me with what you shared. First, I want to tell you that Jon and I met. I got to give you a backstory. So we met at an event in LA. And was it LA or San Diego?
No, it was, it could have been San Diego. I honestly don't remember.
Yeah. And we used to like go out a lot together in LA. It was when I was working with a designer, and Jon was in filmmaking and waiting tables too, right?
Oh, yeah.
And we would go like talk spiritual stuff, and we'd be out so much, but we were both single, and both we're very white people attracted to dark people. So people would always say, like, oh, you know, I would say like, he's like my brother. And people would be like, yeah, right, you guys are. So we stopped saying that he was like my brother or I was like his sister. And we just went with, this is my brother, Jon. And so I'd be out there like, hey, my brother thinks you're really cute. You know, it's like his wing woman, and vice versa. He'd be like, my sister. And some of those guys were like, yeah, for a brother, he was really like, take my sister. It was pretty funny. But yeah, so Jon, what you shared, Jon is first and foremost a survivor of cult and sexual abuse. I had no idea. I knew the sexual abuse. I didn't know the cult. He's an actor, a teacher, and sometimes writes things. He lives in Los Angeles with his partner and his pups. But he's been seen in The Rookie, Good Girls and All Rise, and he's teaching other actors insider secrets. It's awesome. I had to stop reading because it started, you know, you can tell I'm reading. I'm not an actor. I'm not an actress. Jon, thank you so much for being here.
My pleasure. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, and so I wanna dive into some of the first things that you shared first.
Sure.
And the class that we're working on is about like manifesting, and how do we, you know, when you're in one identity, whatever that is, poor, poverty, scared, whatever, and you see God's Spirit puts a different vision inside of you. Like, I believe if you desire it, it's because you're designed for it. When it's one of those aligned desires, like, why does a bird want to fly? Because it's designed for it, right? So, but sometimes the gap can feel so far, similar to, you know, an actor. If you're taking on a role that's totally different than who you are, you know, what does it take to really embody that character? And we're going to be looking for some acting tips so that we can take where we see ourselves going, and like, how do you really get into the mind of that future character and live it up and embody it? Because we know we're on the same page with some of our spiritual beliefs, that in order for those things to come, you have to become them first, right? So so tell us about I didn't know about the cult abuse or any of that. So
Yeah. Well, you didn't know about it because I didn't know how to categorize it, I think. I grew up the whole time thinking and feeling and believing. I used to say all the time, just to people that were close to me, people that went through it with me, you know, oh, that's a cult. That's a cult. And then it was, I believe, the beginning, right around this time, I think of 2018, the Fort Worth Star-Telegram put out a 6 or 7 part, maybe something like that, expose on the church that I grew up in, and exposed it and literally called it a cult. And it was, I had this weird thing happen where, you know, and I don't know if you knew this or not, but this may have been after you left, but I've done 2 solo shows about these experiences and growing up this way. And so, you know, doing all of that required a lot of rehashing and really sifting through all of that stuff, and which, you know, is difficult and a lot of work. And I had thought to myself, okay, cool. Well, you know, I did all of that. I did 2 shows. I'm good. Like I dealt with this, and I'm fine.
And publicly, you not only dealt with it.
Yeah, right.
shows.
which was scary as hell. And, you know, I thought, well, man, if I could do that, I'm good. I must be good. And then this expose comes out and I read it and I'm sobbing. I mean, it took me most of the day to read that whole thing. And, because I had to keep taking breaks, I was so just shot. And, after I went through that, I, went to my partner and I said, I think I need to go to therapy. And so that's what I did, and I've been in therapy since, and that's been an amazing gift. Just sort of picking all that stuff apart and seeing what my container is and how it functions and how to make it a better container that works better for me. And, so, you know, I didn't talk about it in that sense just because I didn't know if I had permission to call it a cult. I thought, oh, that's just something that you do. And I mean, if you've ever been, anyone that's been through any kind of trauma, I think we have a tendency to sort of go, oh, it wasn't as bad as I thought it was, or maybe it was, you know, maybe I'm making some of that up, or it felt worse than it really was, or that kind of thing. And then, you know, you get this very profound, definitive statement of, this is a cult. This is what happened. These are the abuses that happened in this place. And you're just like, oh my God, all of that was legit. All of that was real. And so, yeah, so it's become the thing that I put at the top of my bio now, because I think it's a really important conversation. And, I have finally recognized the courage and the strength that it took to get through those times. Not having the tools or the resources that I now understand and have, and just sort of wearing that as a badge of honor now and say, you know what, no, this is exactly who I am. This is exactly where I came from. And I want you to know about that, because I want you to know that you can just rip me open and look right at me and let me be vulnerable and raw, because if that gives you permission to be vulnerable and raw too, then that is worth the frightening possibility that you will stab me in that wound. And so the trade-off for me is, I don't think you will. I'm going to take the risk and say, here, this is who I am. If you need permission to be you, then please be you with me.
That's really beautiful.
Yeah.
Yeah. I know, you know, we've shared a similar journey, not the cult part, but the sexual abuse for sure. And I'm going to send you a copy of my book. It comes out May 7th, but the manifesting, working with women, and guys have been getting things from it. So I can't wait to see what you get. The whole premise is, or a big part of it is coming back to our bodies with deep self-love. And because of these physical traumas, many women and men like you are out of their bodies and not connected to worthiness to receive, not connected to the inklings, the animal base, because it's stomach inklings that when a trauma happens, you learn, like, you can't trust those inklings, or you can't trust your body, because especially if it's been sexual abuse or any kind, I mean, your body still responds. It may have been turned on at certain times, or like, you know, that was very confusing for me. Like, how did my body respond like that when that's such a bad thing, right? Or you, like, part of survival is, you know, empathizing with the person that's doing it. And so bringing home this deep self-love and reverence and safety back to this sovereign property, for me, is a major needle that I'm looking to move in the right direction of, like, hey woman, you're safe in your body, come home here, you know? So it sounds like you had to do your own version of that kind of stuff, and you did it in a really brave way. Has it opened up a lot of people sharing their stories with you?
Yes, it has. I mean, I think it's easier, but it's easier for me to say that I have someone in my mind who came to me after my show, who looked at me and said, you know, this is my name. These things happened to me. He was a young man from Ghana, and he said, these things happened to me and I didn't realize that we were allowed to talk about them until I saw you tonight. And I don't know who, I think that it makes it easier for people to broach that subject, but I don't know what it does for people. And oftentimes I get to share some of this stuff, but I don't get, there's not a, this isn't, especially doing a one-person show, there's not a lot of feedback. You know, that hopefully they laugh in the parts where you try to put in levity and that kind of thing. But I think in general, I don't really think about that too much. I think more about that young man and just, let me just keep putting this out there. Let me just keep putting this out there. Let me just keep putting this out there, because for every one of him that came up to speak to me, I have to believe, based on just sheer numbers alone of people who have been sexually abused, that, you know, there are a number of others who didn't come forward. And I just, you know, let it be that. And I don't think about it too much.
Yeah. Awesome. Well, you know, now this shifted a little bit, and I want to say thank you. And I see in the comments, I know Amber has shared with us before some personal things. And yeah, Amber says, thank you so much for sharing this. I went through the same thing, and she has shared the same thing.
Yeah. Yeah.
Courtney, adore, you've done this for me too. When you say things out loud that I've never felt like I could talk about before. Yeah, it does help to share for sure. So yeah. And I've said something similar, that when you share, wait, is there some more? Oh yeah. Thank you for sharing. Okay. I'm getting lost with the comments, so I'm going to read them after they come in. When we bring our authentic selves to the table the best that we can, and the vulnerable parts too, that it does give permission, not only permission, but like this sigh of like, okay, so I'm not, if I like this person and they don't seem damaged, or I don't feel like now I don't want to hang out with them or whatever, then maybe you know, it's okay for me too. Maybe, you know, I think it brings so much. Permission is number one. Well,
you said, and I'm curious, I'm gonna ask you before I assume. You said that this shifted a little bit. If what you meant by that was this shifted away from acting and a little bit into something different, is that what you meant?
No, I was about to say, yes, kind of. I was going to say, I'm going to shift it in a moment, but I wanted to acknowledge, I wanted to complete this conversation.
Sure. Well, can I just relate this to acting really quickly, just what you said? Because I think it's really poignant. Because when you show up as an actor, and again, this can be applicable to just your normal life. You can be just a normal human. You don't have to be an actor. But when you show up as an actor in a very authentic way, in a very vulnerable way, then that sigh that you mentioned, that comes from the other side of the people who are looking at you, because there's a sigh of relief. There's a sigh of a recognition of, this is a very real human being in front of me, making me feel something. And when you actually bring that authentic feeling to them, and they can go, oh my God, yeah, that's a real feeling, then you affect them. And by affecting them, you are getting the job more easily, because you are affecting them. And as that is for life, then I suppose, you know, you are bringing more value to life in general, just by being authentic. So to me, those things are one and the same. I think you have to, from that standpoint of just come and be an authentic human being, and that's everything.
Yeah, that's awesome. You froze just for a moment. Can you hear me? There you are. Can you hear me okay?
Yeah.
Okay.
I hear you fine, yeah.
Yeah, so Lucy said, thanks so much. She said, I was raped at 4 and almost do not believe it myself too.
Yeah.
Lucy.
Yeah. Lucy, I was 7, or 6 or 7, somewhere in there. Don't really remember.
Yeah. So I do want to shift it a little bit, and thank you so much. This is the perfect space and the perfect conversation. You're the perfect male to bring into our FEM circle, and this will end up being shared with more people. But but the people here on this call and everyone that watches, it's meaningful. So tell me about a character that you had to play that was so freaking opposite of who you are.
Well, I'm trying to think because what I can tell you, what I can relate to you is that I just went through this a couple of months ago before we all had to quarantine, and it was in class, and I was getting these scenes in class where the guys that I was playing were just awful, just mean human beings, just really nasty men, and I don't, and not that they think that they are nasty, awful human beings, but it felt so difficult to me in those moments. And part of it was because I kept getting paired. And this, I know now that this was intentional because it was the teacher trying to help me work through this. And I even told her, please help me work through this. Don't give up on me. Like I want to experience this. But she kept partnering me with this one woman. And in my mind, I had built this woman up. She plays the frail character very well. And I made the mistake, I think, in part of associating that ability to play such beautiful fragility with her actually being fragile. And but the other bigger part of it for me was the world felt so strange, and I felt like I have felt like this for a while, that it just the world felt kind of ugly to me in so many aspects that I was just like, I don't want to be ugly. I don't want to put this out there. And it became this really difficult thing. And but I finally got through that because through my teacher, through Brene Brown, through my therapist, just constantly, trying to understand this, because I got in touch with whatever the part of me that finds joy in acting, and in order to get through that and find that nasty, terrible man, the little boy inside of me who loved to play, who loves to act, just looked at me and said, ever so sweetly, in one of my therapy sessions, just kind of said, what are you worried about? We're just pretending. I was like, oh, right. We are just pretending. And then suddenly everything opened up, and it became this really wonderful thing to kind of go, oh, look, I can do this. And secondarily, in the way that I see those kinds of things is, we really do offer a service and a gift to the world through our art. And I don't know of a better gift to the world than to reflect truth. And even if that truth is ugly, and that comes in the form of what we would look at from the outside as this really ugly human being, and you can put whoever you want in there, but understanding that somewhere underneath that is a very damaged human being, then you can reflect that ugly truth to the world, and then let that be a gift, hopefully, to find compassion or understanding, or even to maybe push somebody a little bit to recognize that they actually carry this kind of ugliness in themselves. And so whenever I have a hard time, I try to remind myself of that. But now I've got this wonderful new tool that I can't wait to use again when I'm sure this will come up again, and just go to that little boy, just have him remind me, hey, we're just playing pretend, man. What are you worried about?
Yeah, and I love what you said about, reflecting truth, even if it's ugly, and it helps to understand how an actor would be able to go to those places. Has there been a role, can you think of a role that you played, and Courtney has some comments, I'm gonna bring them up at the end. Has there been a role that you played that was a really magnificent character, but also very different from you, that you had to stretch for, like, try to really understand it?
Yeah, yeah, sure. A theater show. I played Mazzini Dunn in George Bernard Shaw's Heartbreak House. Lovely play. One of my favorite things I've ever done in my life. But Mazzini Dunn was much older than I was at the time, especially. But with makeup, it was really wonderful to get into that you know, funny little old man's body, and it's into his mind. And, you know, but he
How did you do
was,
that? Yeah,
how
like
did,
get into his mind. Here he is, a funny old man. How did you get, like, what are some tips? Like, you were teaching actors how to get into it. Like
sure, sure.
the new
Um,
act.
you just look, it's, if I'm teaching actors, then it's a totally different thing, because I mean, it's only just, it's all makeup. It's just make believe. It's just, you know, so it really does just depend on how you want to play it, and what you want your imagination to go. And that's why every actor is potentially the most brilliant actor in the world in the right role, because in the right role, they find this wonderful magic. And so if I was telling this to a group of actors, what I would say, and I'll just tell you what I did, was, you look at everything, you look at the world, you look at the environment, you look at everything that's happening during the time that this was happening. And so you start from there, and you say, okay, well, where am I? You know, not just physically, but, you know, historically, and start to understand everything that's happening in the world during that time, and how does that influence our lives. For example, COVID-19 right now is a huge influence on our lives. And an actor 40, 50 years from now, if they do a play or they do a TV show or a movie, they would have to come back and say, okay, well, what was the environment in 2020? Well, not only do I have to figure out this character's, you know, emotional life, but COVID-19 was happening. People were quarantined for months. So what does that do to people? And so you take all those factors in, and then you kind of say, okay, well, what am I going to do with all of that? And for me, you know, some of our, we had required reading from the director, Guns of August, by Barbara someone, I can't remember her last name, but basically it was just about the World War, and you know, what things were like, and especially in England at that time. And so you take that, and then I decided, I can't remember what I decided
You
exactly
had
what it
an
was.
English accent in
Oh
the
yeah,
book.
absolutely,
Put it
absolutely.
on for us, John. Give us a line, and then
Well,
tell
I don't think I can do it very well, just very cold, of course, but there was something along these lines here, I believe. um, but so I decided that this man had invented this device meant to be helpful, and instead it ended up being something that was used for destruction in the war, and how that weighed on him. And that was just something I made up. Like, I just, you know, well, how do I make this man feel this way, and, you know, have the emotional sort of roller coaster ride that I want him to have, or I want to experience and take this journey in. And then I said, okay, well, I'm going to put this on it, and I'm going to put this on and put that on. And you sort of just build it piece by piece like that, and just kind of figure out where things go, you know?
Yeah, I love that though. It's part of this manifesto. What we do is look at, okay, what is the story of this person so far, and where is the story going to end, right? And then, like, what's the core identity of this person?
Mm-hmm.
Like, what are their character traits? What are their achievements? What are their beliefs about themselves? And then you put in, so at first it's this whole objective, you're the writer of the story, or you're the actress, you're the writer first, right?
Mm-hmm.
And
Mm-hmm.
the actress, because I have the women here, but then you're going to take the script, and now you've got to learn to really condition your mind and yourself to embody this character, so that you end up at that end result of the
Yeah,
story that you want.
sure,
So
sure.
we're doing kind of the backstory, but now what changes in the middle of the story, and what kind of beliefs does that in person have, and what time do they wake up in the morning, and what do they eat, and what do they
Yeah,
laugh about, and like, and then this embodying of it, and then, like, you listen to that every day, right, to get into
yeah,
the
yeah, I
character of
like
where
that.
you're going. So I'm sharing that to and that it's part of one of my next books, because I've been using it for a couple
Mm.
years, and I think, like, what you said about every actor is that, like, I believe we are all God, like,
Mm.
happening. We're spirits in a body. We've been given dominion. We're co-creators with reality. We're creating things all the time. And I remember one time, when beards first started really coming out, I see you're rocking one too, which, yeah.
No
But
point in
I remember,
shaving right now.
I know, right? Who cares? So I remember driving by this guy and going, wow, he's really hot. And then realizing he was homeless, you know? And then I'm like, okay, you know, what is different? The only thing different about this guy and some other hot guy is what that belief system is in there, right? So I believe that. I also believe, you know, as spirits, we're playing a physical game. We're playing in a physical reality, and it's an illusion in a lot of ways, and it's real. So
Yeah.
what when you're writing the script, when you're getting in there to create things, like, how do you, against old beliefs of the child? And yes, one is what you talked about. We do the work, we do the deep work, we get therapy, we do EFT tapping, hypnosis, you know, ecstatic dance, everything. Some do mushrooms, like whatever you can find to help get those things clear and free. And then, but then that vision for the future and the embodying of the characteristics, I think it's very similar. Is like when you don't feel worthy or ready, or like, I remember when you and I met, you always wanted to be an actor, but you were like, my face is a baby face right now. I have to wait till I age a little bit.
Yeah, I can't believe I said that. I can't believe you remember that. Yeah. What a great
that.
excuse that was. That was such a great excuse for me.
I know. And Elaine Hendricks was like, what? No, you should own that. You want to own the baby face as long as you can.
That's right.
Yeah. And so, like, see how that belief system was something that was opposing, right? But then the character. So like when you have, and many people do, these, I'm not worthy, I'm not good enough, I've never done it before, no one in my family's done it. And yet you have this script that you want, or this story that you want to unfold. It is a lot like trying to step into character, right? So with that, like coalescing with what you've already shared and believe, I'm sure I'd love to hear more acting tips. Give us some more.
Well, look, I think that what's cool about doing all of that stuff, because, you know, yes, there is a very beautiful exercise that I have when I'm trying to figure something out and figure a character out. And that is to just find one routine, one thing that they do, and then really, really get granular and detailed with that one thing that they do, so that it gets to a point where, for example, in a particular show that I did, I accidentally, through rehearsals, found that I had this little wire wastebasket, and at one time during rehearsal, I just kind of slammed it down. And immediately it took me to this place. And like all the stuff that I wanted to work on, all the stuff that I was trying to bring into this character was suddenly just there because of this one little thing. And then from that moment forward, every time in that show, I would take that little wire wastebasket, slam it down real quick, and immediately it would put me in that place all over again. And so it's this really weird, disjointed thing that sort of, until I find that little magic thing that sort of I can go, oh, that's it right there. That's the magic button, or that's the little portal that takes me in. Like, then I can just, I try to find and siphon it down to just that one little point where I can just go, okay, cool. I touch my lapel like this right here, and now I'm in, and I'm gone. You know,
so it's kind of like an anchor, an NLP, right?
Yes.
You find an anchor for it. And some other key tips that we can get is like, okay, so you're studying the time that they're in. So if your story is you're an inspired writer or a billionaire or an excellent mother, then like the things that we kind of know are cliche, go, what is that mother doing? Where does she, like find a real life one that has done it, and look at what is she doing? What does she hang out with? What are her habits like? What's something that, and then, so that can help you kind of get the background of what that inner, like, I'm always like, what is Oprah? You know, when I feel overwhelmed, I'm like, Oprah delegates like a maniac. Like, sure, I mean, she's busier than anyone. So it's not about not enough time, because I have a list like way tinier, and, you know, I don't know. So there's that. And then when you're feeling into that energy and imagining it and running through the life of that character, and I'll get you to go into visualization with us and how we could apply this. But once you're there in a moment, find a way to anchor that in. I guess we have to do, because you just happen upon them, right? Like it just happens in a scene.
Well, I mean, I feel like just happened upon them is a little, leaves it up to chance a little too much, because in my mind, it is something that I am actively keeping my eyes and ears and all senses open to, just because I want to find that little thing. And once I find it, then I don't need everything else. I can just, you know, touch the coffee cup or whatever it is, and I can go.
Yeah. So you've got your lines. You really understand and study the story. You study the time frame. So now if we were going to apply that to this metaphor of like, okay, you have a vision for being a certain kind of mother, being in a soulmate relationship, keeping your, how would you move someone into that?
This is, I'm really excited. I feel like I was ready for this question. Because this to me is my favorite thing that I have found, and this is a recent discovery that I'm still sort of playing with. And that is that once you've done all the work, then it's time to let all of the work go. Because you can't get caught in the work, because much like in acting, nobody wants to see you do your homework on camera. You do your homework and then you show up, and then you just exist. And then the work doesn't, I don't have to be like, here, I did it. Look, you know, I did it because I exist as a real, authentic, genuine human being in front of you, in front of the camera. And so the way that I do that now, and this has been exhilarating. And in fact, I did it right before I logged into this Zoom with you, because I'm using it for everything now. And I'll tell you my little mantra that I say, and then I'll try to explain what that means a little bit better, because I feel like trying to explain it and then say the mantra is backwards. So the mantra is, I am the blank space through which the ultimate creation expresses itself. And this is based off of some meditation that I worked on called the Headless Way. And for me, it has become this thing of, it's almost like I see what should be my head as this see-through flat screen television with nothing on it. And everything that happens and everything that I say and everything that I think or hear or whatever all appears in this blank screen and gets projected out. And instead of me trying to think about it or control what it is, I can just show up, be the blank screen, let the ultimate creation come out and through, and then I don't have to worry about anything I say or do.
I love it.
So it's to do the work and then let all the work go and let the channel of creation and creativity come through you, rather than trying to grab onto it or say, this is how it should be, this is the way it should go, and I'm going to put it out this way. You just get out of the way and open the channel.
This is beautiful. And we talk a lot about the not attachment of it and the flow and the ease of, like, you know, allowing. And so I love the meditation, or the way, because I think that's a great visual of being a portal, a conduit, a blank. So you're not even having to get out of the way. You're there. It's blank. I love that. I love it. So beautiful. And thank you for sharing it. And it is exciting. And I feel like I'll use it, and people watching the replay will use it. I think because you are an actor and you do the work a lot, and we're not actors, I want to know more about what doing the work is, because we're looking to do that work so we can just show up and flow, right?
Sure.
Your mind does the work.
I mean, look, the work
of embodying a new character.
Yeah, no, the work of embodying a new character is a lot. You know, you start off with those questions, and or those the given circumstances that you find yourself in. And once you understand those given circumstances and where you are and what your place is in the world that you're existing in, then it's time to get into what makes this person tick and what makes them have the reactions and the emotions that they do have. And what's funny is that you have to recognize when doing that much work is necessary and needed and when it's not. Because there are so many times that as an actor you can show up and they don't need you to go and be the next Daniel Day-Lewis. They need you to come, show up, do a solid job, move the story along, and then get the fuck out of the way. And let everybody else, let the stars of the TV show or the movie or whatever do their thing. And you're just there to sort of help move the story along. So I think first is recognizing your place in the story. What is your place in the story? Are you the central character? Are you just a peripheral character in some way or another? And
so these are all central, ladies. Yeah, and everybody watching, you are the central character.
So when you, okay, so let's just stay there in the central character then. So when you are the central character, everything depends on you. Everything rides on you and your work. And so you've got to, that means you have to show up every single day. You don't get a day off. You don't get to take a scene off. You don't get to take a take off ever. It means that everybody in that room, everybody that you don't see, going out and doing scouting locations and getting crafty and putting budgets together in the corporate office building, all
your angels, your guides, all the ancestors putting shit together on your behalf, what you don't see. Go ahead.
That means that all of those people are depending on you to do your job and to do your job well. Because if you don't do your job well and you're the central character, then where's this story going? Nowhere. Straight to video if you're lucky, right? So
oh my gosh.
So you've got to so when you're studying that and you're figuring that out, sometimes it also again depends on where you are. Are you in a theater or are you on a set? If you're on a set, you know, most likely your whole house is around you if you're in your house. But if you're on stage and you're doing some low budget theater show, you might have a table and a chair and a lamp over there, and then another little thing over there with a bed that sort of denotes the bedroom. But you're not in a house. You've really got to fill this out. Where are things? What is the space you occupy? Understanding that, and then you can go as deep as you want. I mean, you can think about, well, I have this reaction when so-and-so says X, Y, and Z because when I was 15 years old, my father did this when I had this responsibility. And ever since then, when someone says those words to me, I have this reaction because of that. You can go that deep if you want to. You don't have to. I mean, it's just, I think imagination.
Yeah.
Right. Well, and I think that in all of these things, you have to let imagination and intuition be your guide. And the truth of the situation is that a more experienced actor, a more colorful performance, a more interesting, more moving, more authentic performance will come when you know every single little gritty detail and why you and how that functions in the world for you as that character. So we had an exercise that we used to do in college called 30 questions. And you would come up with 30 questions that you would find as you would read through the script about your character. And your job was to then go through and ask 10 more questions about each of those 30 questions. And then you would go through and answer all of those questions. And by the time you got finished answering, 300 or whatever questions that ends up being, by the time you get there, there is almost nothing you don't know about who you are, where you are, what you are in the world, how people view you, how you view yourself, how you feel about yourself and your position in the world. So you can dive as deeply as you need to, but you will always find that the deeper you do, the deeper the work that you do before you go into the character, the more effortless the character will come to life.
Oh my gosh, that is so beautiful. Yeah, that's so beautiful, and so profound. And it goes back to what you were saying about, I know it's simple to you because you live in LA and hang out with a bunch of actors and talk about all the time. Okay. But, it's not the conversation. We're having a different conversation. So it's very, very profound and fascinating. And I love the crossover here. So one, do you have the template of that somewhere? Is it just 30 questions? And then
I do have the template of that somewhere. If you'd like me to send that to you, I can do that.
And
Yeah.
I'll credit you when I put it in the book too, but I want to take it and play with it out, because I have found, yes, and I'll give it to everyone here too. Yeah, because I've found, with manifesting reality and shifting stories and deep self-love and intuition as the guide of what you said. And I love what you said, if you're the main character, you never get a day off, but it's also in like real life. Yeah, you don't. And I love because I was imagining this all applying to real life. So you get to video if you're lucky, if you don't do anything. And it's true, when you aren't clear about where you want to go with your story, it doesn't go anywhere, because, and other people get to rule your story and where you go and how it goes, because you're not taking up space as the character in your world. You're not taking creative control. So you end up the sideliner in a bunch of other people's shows, but not really the star of your show. So, and you get to decide what it is, if it's a low budget film or and some people will start with a low budget film and have to visualize all those things in their life and really go there and take up the space. And I do believe the deeper and the grittier you can go. And there's something that I like to do, especially whenever I'm feeling, I've done it a few times when I felt really overwhelmed or anxious, or like, there's no way I'm going to get to the space where I like tap into the Adora that I see that in the future that impacts people in a certain way and does certain things. And I can believe that because the things that I visualized 20 years ago, I'm doing right now, right? So I have something to hold on to, but I like go over there and I'll see all the people that are like, don't give up, come on, we need you. And I'll also call on that person's wisdom. Like, what do you know that I need to know now and that I can anchor in now? So that 30 question game would be so fun to play with that woman, know?
Yeah.
And I think, go ahead.
Well, there's one other thing I want to say about all that, is because I think that once you do all of that and you get to the point where you let it go, the thing that you have to do as an actor too is do all of that work, be really clear, but then also be really soft and vulnerable and open to possibility and discovery. Because if you set it up for yourself as an actor to go, okay, well, I'm going to go to this post, and then I'm going to go to this post, and then I'm going to go to this post, and then this one, and this one, and this one, and this one, and this one, bam, end of the show. If you do that, you're going to unconsciously even go for that post, that next post. Well, that's my next post. I got to get there. I got to get there. Instead of being open to the magic and the alchemy that happens in acting, which is these beautiful, genuine, surprising moments and these moments of discovery. And when you have a genuine discovery moment on stage or in front of the camera, the audience is right there with you and they have that same wonderful experience. And so if you say, I got to get to that next post, you might miss this really beautiful little nugget over here of discovery that could have been so even if it's just for its own existence, its own experience, if for no other reason, if it doesn't add anything, but it just gives you this wonderful appreciation of that particular moment, you won't go there. You won't experience that. You'll miss out on that because you had to get to this post. That post is just a guideline. It's not set in stone. You got to be careful about setting it in stone, and you just got to allow for something else, the ultimate creation, to come through and say, yeah, that's cool, but this little tiny side path is a lot cooler. Check it out. And then you can take that ride.
You know what I love about that? So I meant to say when you work, and then it becomes effortless, right? Mm-hmm. So putting in this groundwork of where do I want to go? Who do I want to be? What do those details feel like? And then relaxing and being that conduit, that's where flow and manifestation and that ease comes. And then I also love, because I can relate to this and so can other people, I know that when you've got, okay, I'm going to write my book by this day, and then I'm going to go here, and then I'm going to go to that college. And like, I think of my son who had Stanford in his head so hardcore, and Stanford didn't accept him. Notre Dame did, with a scholarship. And, you know, he's crying and suffering over it for a while because he really wanted to be in progressive Stanford. But now he's pre-COVID living in Tokyo, and it opened up this whole wild, beautiful, when he softened and went, okay, I have to surrender that. And what is the beauty here? And he's, you know, all these amazing things. And I've had it in my own life. You've had it in your own life. So it's that sometimes you can be so rigid and focused that you're like, no, but he was supposed to be taller in my dream list. No, he was supposed to be, or she, you know, the job was over there. I was supposed to be a writer, not an actress, or, you know what I mean? So that kind of like, yes, set your focus, but then be open to that highest, greatest, and be open and vulnerable to the moment so that you can be there. And another thing it makes me think of, and then I want to hear what's coming up for you, is there have been times with my now 9-year-old daughter that I plan to connect with her and have a super fun time. So I'm like, we're going to go to Six Flags, but it's Saturday, and I'm like, come on, Zaina, we need to go to Six Flags. Stop skipping to the car. We got to get to Six Flags so we can have, you know, and I'm driving this intention for us to go have fun at Six Flags. And in the meantime, I'm missing all the fucking fun and squeezing the fun out of it because I'm like driven to the post, to the post, to the post. So again, it's that like, okay, what is the core intention? And then relax and flow with that moment. Like all this goes to really great life. So awesome. What else comes up for you that you could share if you were?
Well, I will share with you quickly the other mantra. Well, there's two that are very similar that I do, and I did these before this as well, which is something that I got from my improv teacher, this wonderful man named Dave Rosowski, who's absolutely fucking brilliant. Worked with everybody you've ever seen. He's really amazing. But he has this saying that just transformed a lot of things, not for improv. I don't care about the improv so much, but just in acting in general. He has this saying of, I will know what I need to know when I need to know what I need to know. And I love that saying so much. And I use it before I do anything now. And I've also adopted and adapted it to something that is more poignant for me as an actor and not as an improv artist, which is because, you know, I found myself doing this when I was doing a show, and it was very emotional. And that night I was just like, I don't know. I don't think I'm going to cry tonight. I don't know. I'm not going to cry tonight.
And the role called for you to cry.
I didn't have to cry. I wanted to cry. As the actor, I knew that if I was really feeling it, I was crying. And I was worried I wasn't going to really be there and be present and really feel it. And I just, oh man, I don't know if I'm going to cry. And then I said to myself, okay, well, why are you doing that? You don't have to cry. And then I just said to myself quietly, I will feel what I need to feel when I need to feel what I need to feel.
Oh, I
And then
love
I cried when I walked out when I did the thing, you know. And so I use those two with me all the time now, especially for acting stuff. Again, just to recognize I've done the work and now I'm letting it go. And because I've done the work and because I'm willing to get out of the way as much as possible and try to let everything come through, then I just have to trust. I have to trust that I will know and feel all of those things that I need to know and feel when I need to feel all of those things.
Mm.
So, yeah, for me, I think that's been a big, that's my little secret freedom button that I click right before I do stuff now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's awesome. I can use that one right now. I'm at a crossroads in life that will take me down two totally different paths.
Yeah.
And um, there's been a lot of like, is it this or it's that? And I feel my energy pull away or lower and my anxiety rise. And then I'll feel like the things that I want to put energy toward, like my book launch or dancing with Zaina or something like that, it can get taken away with this big decision because I want to make the right choice for my
Right.
big life story, right? And so Mesa gave me yesterday, like, hey, you're just in the waiting room. Like spirit has it, and when you need to, like it'll be so strong, exactly what you're supposed to do, and there's no need to make a major move until you have that. And what you just said is a mantra that's similar. Like I'll know what I need to know when I need to know it. I'll feel what I need to
Yeah.
feel when I need to feel it.
Yeah.
I'll do what I need to do. Yeah, I'll know what I need to do.
Yeah. I mean, because I think as actors, you know, I know that I spent so many years trying to get it right, trying to do it right, whatever the fuck right meant. Like this is art. This isn't, there's no right in this. Every human being exists. And so there's no right or wrong. You can't be a wrong human. You're just a human, you know,
Right.
but I had to recognize that that was just me putting my own unworthy feelings and thoughts on myself rather than just saying, this is my gift. This is my offering. This is what I have to give to you, to the world, to everybody, just to, because I fucking love it and I love doing this and I want to share this with you because what I do is so fucking cool that I should share it with you. And just letting that be enough of a reason to do it. And yeah, so it took a while to get out of that mindset and try and get out of, well, I think they're going to want this and I think it should go this way and I think at the end this will happen for that reason. The fuck ever. Like just go in and just be you, just be authentic. Who cares about the rest? All the rest is bullshit. Just go in and be truthful.
Yeah, I love it. So one question, I was going to say last question, but I was like, that's a lie. If another one comes up, I'm, you know, but yeah, you the other day, Courtney. But I do want to give the ladies a chance to ask or say some things too. So, but I want to get all this juice for the people watching the replay too. So, with your own journey, because I know acting was in your purpose for, it was, you saw it for yourself for
Yeah.
back then, you know, and I also know you had a spiritual side, you know, as well, meditation and you know, the prayer or not meditation walks and, you know,
Yeah.
just different things like that. And we were unfolding a lot of that stuff. I was working with a designer, you know,
Yeah.
and
Julia,
living
right?
with Elaine, Julia Gerard, working with Elaine
Yeah.
and doing the red carpet stuff.
That's
And
right.
yeah. And, you know, and you did film, you were doing some film and you were waiting tables. So like for people, so you've manifested a journey. So I want to hear some things about when did you first know it was your purpose, and also talking about that post to post to post, because you were following intuitions and you had to be adaptable and open, and you went a lot of different paths before you really found your legs with this.
Yes.
Yeah, what do you want to share about that?
Yeah, I mean, I I joke with people that I was lost in the wilderness of Los Angeles for 14 years, because I've been here for 17, and This year will be 18 years that I've been in LA. And but the first 14 years, there was just a lot of fear holding me back, a lot of limited beliefs holding me back. I was scared to death. I had this attitude. I came out here with this attitude of, I belong here. I deserve this. This is gonna be so easy for me. I'm really talented. I'm good looking. I'm this. I'm gonna walk around on Sunset Boulevard, and somebody's gonna be like, "That's the guy." Like all of those things. I thought all of those things, and all of that was just a bunch of fear, being masked, and unworthiness being masked, and so I was, for 14 years, someone who talked a lot about being an actor, but never actually did anything to be an actual actor. And I would fall into acting gigs here and there because people knew me and they knew that I could do it. And I, just was fortunate enough to be able to have enough people who saw that and believed in me enough to go, yeah, let's do this. And I'd be like, yeah, okay, fine, whatever. But I didn't have an agent. I didn't have a manager. I had nothing. I didn't do anything with the business, nothing. And then at the beginning of 2017, I was fed up and I knew something had to change. And I realized that all I was going to do was talk. And I didn't want to be that guy anymore. And I had done my solo shows, and I thought I had done all this work. And I'm like, yeah, I'm fine. What's the big deal? I don't need a manager. I don't need to do that. I don't want to do the business. I'm an artist, man. And all that shit. And then finally I was like, no, I'm terrified. I'm terrified of this business. And where was I terrified the most? In the audition process. And I had met a casting director 10 years ago, and he brought me into his office. He said, I think you're awesome. I wasn't eligible for the union at that time. He said, I really like you, but if you're not eligible, I can't do anything with you. And he put me on the phone with one of his assistants, said, tell this guy everything he needs to do. And I sat at his desk in his office. I literally only waited on the guy and then met him in his office, and he's putting me at his desk. And I sat on the phone, took notes. Then I didn't do shit with those notes for 7 years. And in 2017, I was like, I can't do this anymore. And I asked a buddy of mine, I just said, hey, will you mentor me? And he goes, what? I said, you're a working actor. He goes, yeah. I was like, do you do any? And I was like, he's like, I don't know what you want from me. I said, well, do you have another job? He said, no. I said, all right, well then that's what I want. Like, you're doing what I want to do. I don't know how to do it. Can you please help me? And he said, well, what if I called this guy? Cause he had been friends with the same casting director. He said, would that help? And I said, yeah. And 3 hours later, I had an email saying, hey, come into the office. And so for 3.5 years, much like if any of you watch Gary Vee stuff, I ate shit for 3 years. I went in that first year in particular, I was there an average of 4 days a week, I think, for the entire year. I worked probably from, I don't know, noon to 6 or noon to 7 every single day, and didn't get paid a dime. And became the reader, and got cast in a pilot because at the end of 6 weeks, the director looked at me and said, well, what role is he playing? And they're like, no, he's not doing anything. He goes, no, that's bullshit. This guy's good. We're putting him in the show. Mm. And, and then that just kept happening with different directors, different producers, and all that sort of thing. And even then it was still really hard. It was still so difficult and I still wasn't buying it. My fear was dissipating because I started to understand auditions and I understood the business a little more, but I was still just didn't feel worthy of any of that stuff. And even in that pilot, I had Nestor Carbonell, who you might know as an actor from Bates Motel and a bunch of other stuff. He changed my life during that process because at one point I was standing in Fox Studios, and we're there for the network and studio tests. And he's sitting there and he's reading his lines. And I walk over and I say, hey, man, do you want to read lines together? I'm going to be the reader in the room. And he goes, oh, do you mind? And I said, no. And he said, well, can we go over here? And I said, yeah, sure. We go down the hall. He goes, so what are they doing? What are they doing in the room? Can you tell me? Can you tell me anything? And I was like, yeah, dude, This is what they want. They want this kind of like mano a mano kind of thing, like chest to chest kind of thing between this dad and his son. And, you know, and I was like, but they don't want me on camera. And so I can't, they're not letting me get close to you. And he goes, well, do you mind if we practice like that here? And I was like, no, dude, whatever, no problem. And we go. And like in the middle of it, I had this weird out of body experience where I'm like looking at it. And I'm like, holy shit, Nestor Carbonell is spitting on me as we're doing this. and then at the end of it, and we ran the scene probably 5, 6, 7 times. And at the end of it, he just rears back and he slaps me on the chest like this. And he goes, you're fucking awesome. And I was like, you're fucking awesome.